So on today's topic here, we're going to continue with, we are supposed to talk about smart contracts, best practices. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. But before we do that, we didn't finish on storage yesterday. We didn't finish on storage. So let us complete that before we proceed to another part. So let me share my screen. Yeah, can you guys see my screen? Just indicate by trying on emoji. All right. So today will be more like Q&A. I'll be asking you questions too in the process of you learning again. So that make sure you guys are catching up. Remember, don't be scared to talk. I mean, you are here to learn. So even if you feel it, it doesn't mean anything. At least you made an attempt to get. Yeah. So let's proceed. So we're talking about am I audible?
We are good.
All right. So we're talking about yesterday. We're talking about events, modifiers. Well, we didn't start with storage due to time. So today let's talk about time and storage. Yeah. Today's class is supposed to take that long because best customer contracts, best ones. Yeah. So we have storage in Solidity. Yeah. So who can tell me what you understand by storage in Solidity? Who can help me with that?
Okay,
Yeah,
let me just attempt. Storage in Solidity, as the name implies, storage, a place where we can actually store variables and states, functions, a place where you can store variables, states, or functions in Solidity.
yeah,
And
correct.
yeah.
Yeah, continue. Another session.
No, let me leave it also so that others could contribute.
All right. Johnson, your mic.
Okay, so storage, as the name implies, I would say is a place where codes persist. Like, in order for reference, maybe if you want to get it back, like any state, like just like Ajetro said, storage states. Right?
Yeah. Nice. So I need one person to contribute to what he said. Who wants to contribute to what they said so far?
James, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can say that storage is an in-memory storage location, an in-memory location that helps to store and persist data on the blockchain. So data like variables, functions, and other things, even contracts.
Yeah, all of you are correct. So basically, what storage is that now before we even go to what is storage, before we go to the types of storage, we need to know what storage is itself. Yeah, basically from the name already, you should know that okay, it is a place where stuffs are stored. It doesn't have to be storage on the blockchain. You can generalize this as a place where stuffs are stored, probably for future use or I don't know. Yeah, so storage is a place where it can be an item, It can be a function, it can be data, it can be anything. As long as it is stored on the storage, it's called storage. Yeah. For future use or for Reentrancy or something like that. Yeah. So let's proceed. So Solidity has 3 locations for storing variables. Solidity has 3 locations for storing variables. The first one is yeah. Yeah. So guys, sorry, just had to attend to something. Yeah. So as I was saying, Solidity has 3 data locations for storing. Can you guys hear me? Uh, okay. So as I was saying, Solidity has 3 data locations for storing variables. So the first one is what storage for storing variables, storage, memory, and call data. So understanding storage is crucial for gas optimization and data persistence. Now imagine you using another stuff instead of, let's say you want to use A and you want to use B, and the user using your platform, and I'll be like, okay, now, and I'll be like, okay, I want to probably you are selling NFTs in your website, on your DApp, sorry. Then the user comes and says, okay, I want to buy some NFT. So when the user wants to buy that particular NFT, the gas fee is actually high because why? You probably use the wrong data storage location. You get. So it is very crucial to use the right one, which we are going to talk about today. So we have Solidity use cases. Please come our attention if you have questions. So we have Solidity uses. So Solidity uses 3 types of data locations. The first one is what? Storage, which is the permanent data stored on the blockchain. The second one, and it is actually expensive. Yeah, I don't expensive there. We have number 1 storage, which is the what? Permanent data stored on the blockchain, and it is actually expensive. So what they mean here is when we talk about storage, so when a data is pushed or is being sent to the storage, it is actually being stored permanently on that storage. You can't change it. You can't change. Okay, we'll send the attendance link in a bit. We'll send it in a bit. Okay. So as I was saying, when a data is being sent to storage, that data that you sent to storage is being saved permanently. You get. So and you can actually, I don't know if you can I'm modifying it. It's actually what expensive. So the second one is what? Memory. So what is memory? Memory is the temporary data that exists only during function execution. That is why if you see what we do here, where is it? Okay, yeah, if you see what I did there, we have string. And memory only applies to what? Mostly arrays, string. It doesn't apply to number. If I were to change, this stuff to uint, it's going to show me an error. Why? Because saying data location can only be specified for what? Array, structs, or mapping types, but memory was given, which means we are just supposed to give this memory. Yeah. So now just know that memory is only used for what? Array, structs, or mapping types. Again. So string, I think string is still under array. So I think you should know that. Then let's change this to storage. Let's see what will happen. So what is it saying? Even storage, you don't use storage for units. So you can just do returning units. That's showing me an error here because we are supposed to return a string. We're supposed to return a string, and we are what? Returning units. You get? So we have to put it back to returning a string. And if I don't even add the memory, it will say memory was not given. So it can be either memory or call data. So we want to use what? Memory. So I'm going to explain what call data does. So now if you look at, so like I said, memory is the temporary data that exists only during function execution. You get? It only exists in the state here, in this function. Once this function is done, memory doesn't execute anymore. You get? So it only executes in this state. So just have that in mind. Then we have call data. We have call data. So we might be asking what is call data. So call data is a special read-only area used for function parameters, e.g. Function parameters, and it is what? Gas efficient. That is, it doesn't cost gas at all. It is very light. It costs little gas. You get. So call data is what? Is a read-only area used for function parameters. Now, in this case, in this get, is this a read or write function? This one here.
Is a read function, sir.
Function.
Yeah. So since it's a read function, and if you can see what I wrote here, I said it's a special read-only area used for function parameters. Since we are reading, we can also remove this memory and put call data there, and it will still work. Again, the reason why it's showing an error because we've already used memory here. What is it? Return argument type string storage web snap. Okay. Yeah. Because of it is string, like I say string is only applicable to what's memory. Well, just know that call data. Well, let me find a use case where we're going to use this call data. I think during the student registry we are going to play today, we're going to use call data to show you guys what it actually does. So you can actually use call data instead of memory, but in some cases, not in every cases. Again, in some cases.
So, sir,
People are not much.
call data is specifically for only view functions. Is that what you mean? Is it only
Yeah,
used for view functions?
Yeah, it's not like a read only, yeah, which is probably read functions, right?
All right.
Just saying.
Okay, so my question is about when you use that storage where we use Ewing. So now, if we are not specifying for Ewing, like I think Ewing and the rest of them, so what are their default memory storage?
What is what?
So if we are not specifying for Ewing, like for instance, where you use Ewing and storage, it was giving us error without using any specifying memory data type. So the default is what for the Ewings?
I don't think there's a default. I don't think there's a difference in this case. Because if we don't put anything, it's going to throw an error. You can see. So anytime we are dealing with string, and anytime we are returning something, for example, or function right now. But just know that anytime you're dealing with string, array, and object, you have to specify. It doesn't have a default value, so you have to like specify if it's a memory or it's a call data. But in this case, since we are dealing with string, you rather put what memory. Have that answered your question?
So I think I want to buttress on Johnson's question. Like I thought of it too. Now for arrays and structs, they use memory. Now for
Yeah.
other data types like booleans, uint, he's trying to ask what is their default, where are they stored?
Okay.
That's
This
the
one.
question. Yes.
Okay, I think they are stored on memory. Is it memory or code? Memory or storage? Forgotten this particular one. I'm coming. Ready. Forgotten this particular way. Booleans store. Okay. Instead of this, what's in the default storage location? It's either memory or storage. Memory or storage, yeah. I remember this storage location for Boolean. Solidity. So default storage for Bool is what? So the default of Bool is false. I don't know what I'm asking. Let's do what I'm coming for. Let me use you as rather. Aha, you can see I said it's either what memory or what storage. So the default is what storage is stored on the storage, unless explicitly declared otherwise. You get. So you can actually declare it as memory if you want, but by default it's actually stored on the storage. So the reason why it's stored on the storage because of since it's something we are going to be using every time, why change it? Why store it on the memory storage? You get, because since we are going to be using it every time, you can just store it on one place, then you have to just be calling it. You get. However, it is generally recommended to declare such variables as what? Memory, where they are used locally within a function. So remember, function are involved here. Once a function is executed at compile time, that function is actually dropped from the scope. Again, so what they are trying to say here is, if it is however recommended to declare such variables as what memory when they are used locally within a function. Remember, we have global, state, and local variables. And local variables are actually created within a function. Yeah. So so what I'm saying is actually declared as memory within a function. So you can see what they did here. Uint memory. Like, I don't know if you guys can see this, but so inside the function you can actually store it You can actually do it as memory, but it is not for me. I don't feel like it is actually needed. You can just leave it as storage there to still work. So it defaults to storage, but not recommended. But yeah, to actually do it like this doesn't mean anything. I mean, most people are doing it like this. But yeah, you can actually decide to add memory inside the function if you feel like. So does that answer your question, Johnson and Jetro?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So and um wait till you guys are not much to do, or is it my eyes? Okay, I don't know why it used to be 30, but I'm just saying 14. Yeah, so let's proceed. So we have three storage concepts, and the first one is what? State variables. So key storage concept. So we have number one. So state variables are always stored in storage by default. That's what I told you. As long as it is on and it is not declared inside the function, it is stored. You can say, I think we even read it here. So it is stored in storage by default unless specified otherwise. I don't know if you get. So second one is what? Storage is persistent across function calls and what? Transactions. So it doesn't change. Once it is specified, it doesn't change to memory or anything. It doesn't change. So it's actually persistent. So the third one is what? Storage operations are expensive, which means high gas costs. Storage what? Operations are expensive, high what? Gas costs. So and let me come again. Storage operations are expensive, which means it is actually recommended, which means anytime you are dealing with storage, the memory storage, the gas fees are actually high, but with memory, it's actually low. While with call data, it's actually what? Lower, because call data is more like, but with memory, you can actually do a read and write um, execution. You get it. So, and storage is what? Organized into 32 byte slot. I think I did something like this. Oh, but no. I did something like this 32 byte slots for you guys to better understand storage. Forgotten where I did that stuff. Ah, but just know that storage is what? Organized into 32 byte slots. Again, it's organized into what? 32 byte slots. So example one, we have so I gave an example here. So we have a struct. The inside that struct to set it in an array called users. Then the first thing we did was to what? Add what? User. So they are trying to add user here. So now you can see we have a string memory, then call data. Then we have unit what? 256H. Then we made it to be public. So now if you notice what is happening here, function update, memory public. So if we do this, user memory equal to, that is user equal to
Please, you
users.
can zoom in. We are not seeing your screen.
Okay, let me zoom in. Is this better?
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So I was saying we only modify a copy. User storage equal to what now? Now the difference between memory and storage is because any changes that you make is changed to the storage permanently. while with the memory, it is actually changed for a period of time, which is temporary. You get. So if you see what we did here, we were you can actually call this struct, then give it a memory, then the user equal to user's index. So if you see what they're trying to do here, we actually added a storage here so that we can be able to make the change permanently on the blockchain, not temporarily now. You get. So here we are doing users what index. Yeah. So we are doing user.name equal to what? New name. That is a new name that you want to pass in. So and if you look at what I said, I said storage makes the change permanent, while memory would only change a temporary what copy. Call data is a more like a what read only data storage location. So anybody have question before I go to example 2 before we round it up?
Okay, sir. I need just clarity. Um, for storage and memory, from what you
Yeah.
just said, storage are more expensive, and there are particular data types that are being stored. And then while memory within functions, like the data are stored temporarily, and then it is less gas costly than the
Yeah.
storage. And then callbacks are now less
Read only.
expensive than even the memory. So
Yeah.
those things that we store in our memory that goes and after execution of these codes, they are not longer found. Is there not maybe a problem that it can cause to the execution of the entire contract in case maybe you want to use that function again? I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to say, but I know that
Yeah.
anything stored inside the memory after execution, like you cannot get it again. So is there a risk to it? That's what I
Now,
want.
when we talk temporarily, it doesn't mean that the data will just go away at that point. What we are saying is it will start for a period of time, but it will not be stored permanently on the blockchain. It will start for a period of time. That is if you notice what we are doing here, we are using memory here. Where is it? We are using memory in this get name, but we are still able to call it here. If you remember, we can still get the name here. Now it is stored in this scope now, but not on the blockchain. You can actually use it to do what you want to do, but not what on the blockchain, unless being deployed. I don't know if you get it.
Yes, I understand. So it means it is being stored locally, not
Yeah,
on the block.
it is being stored locally. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, Johnson.
Okay, sorry, sir. My question is still on that Jetro's this one, because I was kind of like texting an array. I was like trying to manipulate an array through a function. So, but my question, since you say if we are using a memory, because I could remember I use memory for my array, but since you say it's locally, like the memory works locally, what if it's an array that we want to use on the blockchain, like use to manipulate the data from the blockchain? Do we need to remove the memory to storage, or we can still deploy the memory like that to deploy deploy our contract like that, leaving the memory on the array?
Yeah, sorry. I didn't hear you. Come again. But before you do that, I'm coming. Just a second. Yeah, Johnson, you were saying something, please tell me.
Okay, sir. My question was in regards of Jethro's last comment. I was
Yeah.
asking, as the memory is a temporary storage or some like local storage, if we are building an array or manipulating an array that we are going to return the array, which we need to specify by using memory. So do we
Yeah.
need to change it to storage when we want to deploy it to a testnet or something like that, to a blockchain?
Now, yeah, we don't need to change it to storage. Now, why? Now, let's watch what we.
So is it that your mic is muted or is it from my end?
Sorry. I was talking to myself since. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah, I've unmuted it. Hope you guys can hear me now. Okay. So, just saying regarding your question, yeah. So now take a look at this. We have a struct here. I mean, now inside the struct, we created the struct, and called it users. Abi? So now remember, this is a storage data location. It is stored on the storage, not on memory now. And storage is what permanent. So if you remember, look at this function. We want to add a user, and this string, we give it a memory and a name. Then we have this storage here, and this is what. So now we want to do users dot push. I remember you guys. I know you, and I hope you guys know push. So yeah,
Yes,
so
sir.
now we are
Yes,
what
sir.
so we have users here. I remember this is an array. So we are doing users dot push, and we're calling this user struct here, which is public, and we are pushing what this name and this age. Now, as we are pushing this name, we are pushing it into this function, into this array here, and we are pushing this one to into this array. And remember, since this one is stored permanently, it means that this one that we pushed is what stored permanently automatically inside. But after this function is being executed, this whole function doesn't have a use case anymore because now we've already pushed it towards storage, which is what permanent. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
It makes more sense now, sir. It does. It makes more sense.
Now, remember it's being pushed towards storage without you changing it to storage. So once it's being pushed to storage, we don't need the memory anymore because we already have the parameter we're looking for in storage. You get? Okay, so let's proceed. Um, then the next one is what? Example two. I'll give another example here. I think this was where I was talking about. Uh, so how did you update the stuff? Okay, so look at where they use call data. So now, what are they trying to do here now? They are trying to storage. Um, so here now we are reading from call data. Right here we are writing to what memory, and here what we are writing to storage. So what we're doing here is 256 storage called data external. Then I think this one passing now for now. Just ignore this one. Just for now, know what memory, storage, and core data do. So and how a function is being and how memory is being stored temporarily. So once you push this stuff, this one now is now stored well on the storage, and we no longer need this function anymore for each of the user. So that's what you need to know about storage, memory, and core data. Any other question before we build our students registry? Any other question, guys? All right. So now I don't know if I should give you guys as exercise or I should do it myself. I'll tell you guys to do a student registry. Or what do you guys think? Do you want to do it by yourself? They send me the code, or should I just do it by myself?
Let's do it together. When you are doing it,
Okay.
we'll do it. Yeah.
All right. That can work. So let me create a new file. So I'm going to use. So I'm going to create a new. A new file called what folder? A new file called user registry. So what we'll be doing is registry. Why is it not frozen? Let me go this. In fact, so it I think I should touch refresh. So say content creator. Content creator. Yes. The purpose of this meeting is simply was when we used to go out trying to get people to sign up. I'm trying to get people to creating some content relating to signing up. So for the videos and materials we got. Right, so we have our student registry. So I'm just going to use and copy this. Let's paste it here. So we have our contracts. Then we have so we're going to name it so what we want to do is so we need a blueprint for what we're going to do. In the blueprint, so the first one will be a state variable, a state variable, and I think we're going to need an address, and it should be pop indeed, and the owner. This will be the person initializing the contract. And the next one as well. So I want to create a struct. Now, since we are dealing with user, it has to do with many details. We just install it in the struct. So user info. And inside the struct, what do we need? So we need the name of the person. So the name will be a string. Or storage string. It will be a string. And why is this showing me this? Okay, wait, let me see. That is not okay. I'm using I was using Cairo syntax. Sorry, this is not how we do it. Sorry, the school comes first. It's not Cairo. So then we have what? So we want to do. We want to do what? Age. Someone should just speak if you are listening to me. Let me know if I can talk to myself. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So we have age. Then we want to have what do we need again? User what? So what do we need? What do we need for a student registry? Like I need everybody to contribute. Everybody in this call, I need you guys to contribute.
Perhaps a class.
Huh?
I said perhaps a class. If the student registry, we can say class, or we can say department, depending on what we want. We can say department.
So have the class.
Yes, sir. And attendance, which is boolean, true of us. Attendance, maybe class.
Student ID.
Or instead of attendance, we can use I'm coming. You ain't then. So we need to give it an ID.
Student ID.
Yeah. Okay, let me just turn it to student ID. Make it rest. So we have student ID, then we need a boolean now. We need a boolean that says if the user exists. Does the user exist? True or false? That kind of stuff. So Now it's the same thing as attendance or register, or let's use register rather. It's registered. It's user registered. So these are the details now we need for our struct. So once we have a mapping so that each user we create will have a unique ID. Now we can do this many ways. We can actually do it without the mapping, or we can do it with the mapping. Which one do you guys prefer? Without the mapping or with the mapping?
So
Yes,
with the
I
mapping,
think
so we
the
understand the
thing is with the
mapping more.
mapping, this is some sort of
Huh?
we have kind of a student address, so that if you want to retrieve a particular student information, you can simply put the address and get the related data structure of that particular student.
Yeah, the address now can be the ID. So it doesn't the address is not actually important in this case, but to give you guys peace of mind, we can add it. Well, I'm not going to add it now, but I'm going to add it later. Just remember me, please. So, where did I stop? So, I was asking if I were to add mapping, or I should leave it without the mapping.
So let's add mapping.
Okay. So, let's add our mapping. So, we have our mapping here. So now we have the ID, which we want to use as unit. Then we need to bring in our user info. So we want the value now. We don't want it to be a string. We want it to be what? User info. Sorry. So once it to be what? User info. Once we return this struct, anytime we create once we return this struct, and after that, we want to make it what? Public. Then we want to name it, we want to name what this user. Want to name it users or other users. So now what map is saying is what each struct, each user now we have its own unique ID. You get we have its own unique ID, and it's going to be public so that everybody can see it. So what we want to do now, the first thing we want to do is a add function. The add user function. Yeah. Anybody says okay.
Okay, sir. Can I suggest something?
Can you what?
Can I suggest something? The
Yeah.
example from our language today. So that way we added user info. You know that all we are actually adding. Are you hearing me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can
Inside,
hear you.
inside the mapping, you know that that user
Yeah.
info, we are not actually kind of trying to store only one user information. So we do it in form of an array, a local array, which any user can come in and put his or her data, and it will map to them using the unique value. You kind of,
Yeah.
you know how.
I think I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah. So I think what you're trying to say is we are going to have our um, user info like this.
Yes, but it will be inside it will be inside the mapping, because you cannot declare,
Inside the mapping.
you cannot call in a state variable inside the map. So that means you added user info inside the map. Just add an array, dynamic array, yes, something like that.
Mm, even without the array, it will still work. But yeah, let us follow your advice. Our so I think I did student registry. This is um, yeah. uh I did student registry. Yeah, look at it. But yeah, don't worry about this one. Don't worry about this. But yeah, you can see what you're trying to do here. We have students doing private array, then I want to add them student ID dot push. So we can actually even do this to self instead of that. But yeah, or you know what? I think we should do this. because I think this is better, because what is this saying here is this is more like the public one, and this is more like the private one teacher we have or something like that. Yeah. So I think we should go with this. I believe. And that we should push ID. So what this is doing is just storing users ID. But I don't think we actually need it in this case. But yeah, I might decide to add it later. But for now, let us proceed. So now, what data and data, which data and data do we need? So we need what? The first one is what? String. And string is what? Memory. I want to give it underscore name. Remember, you can give it any name, but I prefer giving it underscore name. Then we have bool, or we have unit, sorry. I think this unit, we should just give it unit 1 to 8. 1 to 8. Unit 1 to 8. So they will give it underscore what? Age. Underscore age. Then when I have another string, that's memory, and what? Underscore class. Then I have another unit. Changes to 1 to 8. So when I have another unit called unit 1 to 8, I want to give it to a student ID. Then comma, then when I have a boolean called what is registered. So we have a boolean called what is registered. So after this, we want to make it a public function. So now, what do we do here? We are going to do so we want to add it to this stuff here. So we do users. Either we push it into here, but since we are using a mapping, we have to pass it what an ID. So we can just use this student ID as ID. Yeah. We'll just we can either push it or pass an ID, but me, I want to pass an ID, so just pass the student. Or should we have this? Or rather, let's also have a unique ID for it for so I'm gonna give it unit 32 underscore what ID. So when I'm passing that ID here, underscore ID, then it's equal to what? User info. So now we're gonna pass in these values, all these values that we have here. So we have the name, comma, age, class, student ID, then is registered. It's what? Registered. Hope I'm not missing anything. Yeah. So we end it with what? A semicolon. So this is showing an error because memory is not explicitly compatible to expected result shots. Okay.
So I think it's the student ID. You are supposed to add underscore on the parameter student ID.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So, okay, I didn't pass it. Okay, yeah, got it. Didn't pass it underscore, yeah. Then, so class, yeah. So what is it saying? Type source, technology to expect type. Oh, you know what? Let me remove this array that's here. I think that's what's causing it. Yeah, it's that array that puts that's causing it. So when using array, we don't just when we are using array, instead of doing this method, we have to do what? We have to push it. What is it? Who has that question? Is it Obed? Obed, yeah, the reason why I remove the array because if we want it to work that way, we have to do users dot push. Okay, your camera is on. Yeah, so let's continue. So I can actually do it that way. Okay, let's try the push. Let me just comment this out. Let me just copy this. Copy this. So I want us to try the push. So now it will be user dot what? Push. We want to push this. But now we have to add the words array. End this. Obed, Oche, is it Obed or Oche that asked this question? So you can see that it's actually working. So we can actually do it this way or you do it that way. But I don't want to add this array. Just want to update it. Yeah. I'm trying to do it anyway. It will still work, I believe. Yeah, we're going to try both ways, but let's start with this for now. So as we move this array, so we don't just do this for arrays. We don't just do this. Doing array, we have to push if you are using array again. So after add function, we need what? We need updates user. Okay. Update what user. So since we're updating user, we can actually update the whole stuff. And so I'll actually copy all this. So you can actually update everything, or you can choose what you want to update. So I think I did just somewhere here. This update here. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just passing in the ID and I'm returning this is what I get. So there's the student, there's the students. No, I'm beautiful. Yeah, somebody wants to say something. Okay. So let's be fast. We don't have much time. So we have to make this public. So we want to update this. But now I don't want to update everything. I want the ID to be the same. I want the ID to be the same. I also want him to update his. Want the ID to be the same. Then probably his I. Okay. And then how do I want to be the same?
So somebody is asking a question.
Yeah. Who's that? Who's asking the question? Hello.
Latifa raised her hands twice.
Yeah, in case I don't respond, just you can just open your mic and speak. Okay, so once you update, we don't want to update the age or want to update the name. Yeah, it's register. I'm going to try to be fast because we don't have much time. So we do what? Users will not add user now. So passing the what? ID. So passing the ID, then equal to what? User info. So go to user info by passing the name they're updating, then just the name and the class that I want to update. Okay. Okay. So what we want to do is, okay, for now, let's just do it this way. Then we'll factor it to, we'll factor it. Oh.
Yes, I can hear you. Hello? Where?
We have age, class, student, ID, and news.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've done the updates. So we want to do the what? We want to do the get all students.
Yes.
I don't think you spelled function correctly, sir.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Get all students. Thank you. So we're gonna get all students. So we have passing an ID there. Test two, then let's go ID. So I'm going to be like really fast. So we have public view returns. Then so one of return was user info, and user info is stored where in the memory. So what do we do? So do return users and passing small item. So let's test this as if our student registry is actually working. So let's go to deploy. Let's deploy it with C4. So you guys should watch. So now we want to add user. So you have to start with the name. I want to call it Martin, comma. Then we have the age. Let's say 32. Then we have the class. Let's say SS3, SS3, then we have the word student ID. So I want to give it 2244 as the student ID. So let's say we have the what students is registered. So it's registered, it should be true. Then I want to give it a general ID of 1. So when we click on add user, so invalid argument. What is it saying? Okay, let me implement. Oh, okay, I don't think we need to pass it board. Okay, wow. So we have the parameter correct. Let's see. We have name, age, then class, and student's ID. Okay, if we are missing something now, come in. It's not giving me a valid for both invalid. Okay, I didn't pass in a value. Let's make sure. So we're now saying invalid page number string value. Okay, valid argument. Come in.
Sorry, sir. I think to make things easier, maybe in that your add user, you can see that arrow down. If you click it, you can just see all the informations in different boxes to fill.
Arrow down. Which arrow down?
This one that is using this add user.
Okay,
this
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So we have the name, ID, age. So yeah, we are passing in the wrong thing. So the ID should be 1. Then the age should be not a string, but 32. Then the class should be what? That should be, let's say SS2 or something. And the student ID should be 22. And now to click on what's transact. So now we've added our user. So let's get our user. So the ID I gave it was what? I gave it an ID of 1. So we click on 1 upon get students. So you can see that we have our students here. So it's returning what? A tuple. Okay, so we have what? Martin. Can you guys see the value? Hello. Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can
Yes,
see.
sir.
So you can see we have Martin, then the age, then the class, then the ID, and the Boolean, which is true. So, and now for us to update this user, can just change it from Martin to what? Martin to Viper or something. Then the ID, I'm gonna give it this. The ID should still be the ID 1. Then the age, let me change the age to 21. Then let me change the class to SS3. Then student ID to 22. Then just show. So when we call it, it's going to transact. So when we do get all students, as it has changed to what? Viper. Can you guys see?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you can see our student registry is working. So now let's try that with using array instead now, without using this. So let's use this our array that we have here. So let me just copy this. So now, but now I just want to update I don't want to update the student ID and it's registered. Because now since it's registered, we don't need to check history again. So we don't need the student ID and this. Then we move what? This and yeah, so which is like for I don't want to pass in all the arguments. I mean so I don't want to pass on the arguments. So
Sorry, sir. It's like Chukobed want to ask a question.
yeah, I told you guys that if I don't respond, you can just like talk. Yeah, who wants? I'm not hearing anything from you guys. Hello.
So you can go on. Maybe it's a mistake or something.
Okay, so since we want to do this, we can just do since we want to update this function, we can just do this. We'll just do this dot name. Or not this. You know what I'm coming. So we can do this. We want to just do dot id dot name is equal to what underscore name. So we want to do this for, let me move this underscore here. We want to do this for these two. So you can do users, then underscore ID. Underscore ID dot what? So once update what? Dot age is equal to what? Underscore age. Now remember, I want to what? Update just users, the score ID, dot what class is equal to what underscore. Yeah, so this is how we update a specific what function. This is how we update a specific function. So can come here and click on compile. So it has compiled. Let me deploy again. So I want you guys to observe something. So now I want to add user. Let me just say Martin here, then the ID. Instead of student ID, I think ID and student ID should be the same. So we need to have separate ones. Now, let me just leave it for now. Let me just, it's not actually need. So the ID is what you want. I want to give it the age of 21. Then I want to give it a class of SS2. Then I want to give it student ID of 222. Then a bool of true. So we click on transact. And now let's get all user. And remember the ID is what one. Due to it is the first student. So you can see our data here. You can see our data is only what? It's two. So we have what? Update user. Now you can see you can just update the few ones we have here. So want to update it to Joy Musa. Then the ID that I want to update is what the one ID. The age want to update it to 2. Then the class want to update it to SS3. We click on transact. And we get all user. Now you will see that the boolean will not change. The student ID will not change. It will just change the one that I specified. So when you click on transact, you can see it has updated without touching any. Who wants to talk? Like this. I think you should raise your this thing down. I don't know.
Okay, boss, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, the reason why I mentioned about that array at the first time because
Yeah.
there is this project I worked on last night. So
Okay.
it's kind of follow the same principle, but it's not the same. So that inside that local array that we are mapping to, so that local array is a kind of the whole, like for example, the whole school register. You get that, so that if you
Yeah.
want to get the whole school register, you will call on directly the function that you just use that address. So the address or that unit we are using is kind of a unit of the school in general. So, but if you want to get a particular student information, you have to go inside that array, then look through the array and find a matching ID or a matching. Let's say if we use an ID as an identifier for a student, we have to look through the array and find a kind of a matching user that is identical to the address or to the ID that we specify. So that's why I suggested about that array.
Yeah, that array
That array
also
will
work.
have register.
Yeah, let me show you something. The array I thought it will also work. But now we are using mapping, and mapping is more like an array because it has what a unique ID. So now, if you notice, we can come here and say, I give this ID. You can come here and give this ID 20. So I want to add another user. Remember, we've already created another user with the ID of 1. Abi? Now I'm giving it an ID of 20 to create another user. So the name should be this, the age should be this, then the class should be. I'm just writing anything for now. Yeah, I want to show you something. So the ID now should be 333. True. So when we click on transact, and we want to get this thing. Now we can still get you can still get the previous students we had, which was the ID of 1. But now we want to get the ID of what? What do I give the ID say? And 20.
20.
So let me put 20. So when I click on all get students, it will still show me what it needs to show me. Now look at it, it has showed me here. So the same thing what you are saying actually, Obed. Yeah, the same thing. But I think where the array comes in is where probably you want to get all students at once. Yeah, you can use the array. Now, you know what? Okay, let me comment this. Let's use the array you're talking about. Let me comment this. So let's use the array. I want to show you guys something. Let's use the array. So I believe you guys are actually catching up with our day. So I've given it the array now. User info, sorry. So now it will still work. You get it. So now you can see I've studied it in an array, but now I can actually come here and do push. It will still work exactly. You get it. So the reason why it's doing showing this because we don't need this ID anymore. We don't need ID. Okay. We don't need the ID because remember mapping has a unique ID, but we don't need it here. But let's just leave the ID for now. So same thing with this update user. So we can come here and remove all this. Get where's it? We can come here and say or can we remove all this self from there. Users as well. So we don't push ID. So when we compile, then okay, it is not actually compiling because of you know what, let me remove this stuff here. So let's compile. So let me deploy again. So I want you guys to I'm just showing you that there are different ways you can actually do this. Not so let me just try anything. Okay. The age 12 class. Class can be anything. Student ID, I don't know, to go through. When I click on transact. So now I want to get all students. So we'll say 1. It is not working. Why? Because of this ID. We are still passing in an ID here. You get. We are still passing in our what? ID. Yeah. So we don't need to pass in the ID there.
Okay, sorry, sir.
So,
if I can get Obed right there, I think what he's asking, maybe he's looking for a function that we can just get everybody that have registered on the contract instead of us getting one like 1, we get Martins, and that 20 that we added. I think maybe he's looking for a function that will just get all the students that register, which is these 2 students now that we registered on this contract. I think that's what he's trying to ask.
Yeah, that's where they are.
Hello, sir. Hello? Can you hear me?
Now, we can get all the users without specifying the ID. get? We can get all the user, then we pass in an array here. Yep, pass in an array there. Then we are going to return just users now, not just users. Then I think that is all. Then position. So yeah, I think this is it. So we don't need this now. Since we are no longer using mapping. So yep. So what again? So this is correct. This is correct. Yeah. So so let's text our function now. Let's read it. So now I'm going to add two different students, and we are going to get all the students at once. So let's add the student. So let's say name is what? Joy. Joy is 10. She's in GSS 1. Then student ID is 12. Is she registered? So let's say true. So we've added the first one. So let's add let's add another one. Let's add another, or let's get all students now. So you can see we have Joy here. So let's add another one now. So let's see Martin. So Martin is 89.
How do you want to effectively advise for mentor?
So that's the conclusion. If you make this to 10, then true. So now let's get all students. Now can you see? Now we have Joy and we have what? Martin. Can you guys see my screen? Now you can see we are getting all the students at once. Hello.
Yeah, with you, sir. With you.
Yeah, so now we are getting all the students at once. Then if you want to get the students by their ID now, this is where you have to create a new function and do get all students by what? By ID. By ID. So we are going to be returning user info, then instead of all users, we pass in an ID. Then ID. Okay, I have to do it. Yeah, so then let me see this update itself. So the update is, let me just say, I'll change to then should be 0, once change to 0 to then A should be 111. So that should be HHH. So let's transact. So now when I click on all guest students, now you can see our Joy is updating. Martin is still there. Joy has updated to what? Tint. So now we get the ID. Remember, array is a zero-based what? Function. It starts from what? 0 to 1 to 2 to 3. Okay. So I remember Joy is 0, then Martin is 1. So as you keep on adding, it keeps on increasing it. So now we can get students by ID and we can get students by we can get all students. So let's deploy it. So now this is will be the final one that we'll be doing. So let's add a student. The first one should be Martin. Martin is what? 21. The class should be SS3. Student ID should be 222. His boolean is should be true. So when we click on transact, now I want to add another name. I want to add another person, another detail. So the second one now will not be what? Joy. So Joy is what? 200. Okay. So Joy is 2. She's in GSS 1. Her ID number is what? 322233. So ID number is 333 and 3. So when we click on transact now, and we click on get all students, you can see we have what? Martin, and we have Joy. So if we want to get a specific ID, we just pass in 0 or 1. Remember, Martin is 0, Joy is 1, and now is a 0-based index. So let's say I want to get Martin, I'll just put 0 here, and I will get what? Just Martin. Isn't this perfect? Guys, did you guys see what I did? All right, I believe you guys are following. So now we've done all this. Now we have our updates, we have our, and we can actually do this with mapping. But I'm just telling you, I'm just showing you to tell you that you can either do it with mapping or you can do it with the normal array. So you can do it with any one of the two. So now our contract is not solid. Now this is where we will start talking about. So today's topic is what? Smart contract best practices. So let me just, I wrote a HackMD, a super HackMD file. So today we'll be talking about smart contract best practices. It shouldn't be that hard. It's something that will just talk quickly. So I want us to implement it in our code to show you guys the vulnerabilities again. So now another user now with another address can come and change, and the person will still transact with our contract. So the user now can actually change this Joy to Joy1 and it will work. Why is it working? Because now we didn't even add checks for if it's the owner that is actually making the transaction or not. You can see the flaws we're having. We didn't even add checks. So the first thing we want to do is what? So let's come here. So we are going to follow everything that is here inside, and we're going to implement it in our student registry. So let me talk about security best practices. So security is paramount. I believe we've talked about security. I don't know those of you that were in my class that were talking about security. Just indicate if you were in my class that time. I mean, beginning of this course. Okay, Jetro is there. Okay, Jetro, you have something to say?
No, I'm just indicating that I was here.
Okay. Johnson, so we're here. So now we are going to implement it in our code. So let me explain again what we are doing. So security is paramount when developing smart contracts, since they often handle valuable assets and cannot be patched once deployed. So let's dive into comprehensive security best practices with practical examples. Why security matters? Now, security contracts are immutable. Once deployed, you cannot fix bugs without major upgrades. So once you deploy your contract, you cannot change it. You get it? You cannot, unless it is stored, what I mean, it is stored on the blockchain, but you can be able to modify it, which means for any transaction you pay gas fees. Then they often hold money. They often hold money. Even a small mistake can lead to millions in lost or funds. I don't know if you guys know the 51% attacks, or those kind of attacks. If you know them, so you have to be careful when you write your smart contract. So any small mistake you do might lead to what? Millions in loss of funds. So many high-profile hacks like DAO, the parity multi-sig, the running bridge. This one, how much they even lost? 200 million, yeah? Dollars. Happened due to what? Security flaws, the solidity contract. So the number one use case is what? Use latest solidity version. Use latest solidity what version? Why? Each solidity version fixes known vulnerabilities and improves safety features like overflow protection, introducing what v.0.8. So try to use, so basically what they are trying to say is try to use the updated solidity version, because they are trying to update it because they are trying to improve the language every time. So update doesn't end, but just try to use the updated version. Example, Pragma Solidity 0.8.20. So 0.8.0 allows upgrading to newer minor version, which might introduce breaking changes. Prefer finding exact functions of production. So basically, what I'm trying to say is try to avoid 0.8.0. You get, just try to use the updated solidity version. So that is the recommended tactics you should follow. So number two, we have the reentrancy attacks. Reentrancy attacks. So what is reentrancy? So a malicious contract re-enters a vulnerable function like withdraw before the original call finishes, especially before state variables are updated. So a malicious contract re-enters a vulnerable function like withdraw before the original call finishes, especially what before state variables are updated. So contracts send it using what? Dot call. Attackers fallback function triggers and calls dot withdraw again. Since balance hasn't been updated, attacker withdraws again. So this is a bad practice of following when dealing with a withdraw function. You get, when doing dot call, instead of you checking the balance at the end, you can check it after the before the call is being executed for it to be sure. So this is already too late because the attacker can come and manipulate it. So this is a good way of writing it. So always make sure that the amount is equal to message balances, and the person is what message or what sender. So and also check that the person that's withdrawing the money, the amount is greater than zero. Always make sure of that. So this balances that is here is to check that the balances, which is the message or sender, is what equal to zero. So this should be above this particular function, call function is being executed. So this is a good way of writing it. So you can also add this to make sure it is more secure. You can also import this reentrancy card from OpenZeppelin and add it in your contract. You can just do what? Secure bank is what? Reentrancy card. Then you just call that modifier. Yeah, you just call it simple as that. So number three, we have what? Input validation using what? Require. Always validate input to ensure they meet expected parameters. Get. Best practices is what? Check for zero addresses, validate numerical input, verify array length. So we are, this is what we will start with now. So we need to check for zero addresses. I hope you guys are following. So now we need to check for zero addresses. So once we do that with what? Modifier. So okay, we need to go add a constructor self. we need to add a constructor. So we want to call it so we want to do owner equals to energy dot what sender. So we've initialized this, and after this, we want to do modifier, which is only owner. I wanted to give you guys as assignment, but let's just do it together, yeah. So we have modifier only owner, and then only owner should be a function. Then, so we want to check for the address. So we'll start with what? Modifier. So the condition should be what? Energy dot sender is equal to what? Owner. The person initializing it should be what? Owner, not another contract. So, and this should be color what? Not owner. Then we pass in our what? Underscore. Don't forget to underscore. So we also want to check for what? Address not zero. I mean, so we want to check for valid address. Let's check for valid address. So it should be address shouldn't be what? So we need to make sure the energy dot sender is not what? Address dot zero. So so now we are doing equal to, which is not supposed to be equal to, it's supposed to be not equal to. So we also want to check for what did I write here? Want to check for verify array length. So we want to check the length of an array. Valid array. So if you see what is happening here, we are checking to get this invalid address rather. Then hope you guys are following. Someone should just speak.
Yes, sir, we are following.
Okay. Yeah. So we have valid array. So if we want to check this array, I think it should be on these users. So this particular one should be beneath this one. Yeah. So we're going to use that one, yeah, because we want to pass in the array. Okay. So it's not going to be this. So it's going to be users. Going to be users dot what? Length. Dot length. It's greater than what? So for it to add, you need to make sure the user is greater or equal to 0 there. Or it shouldn't be less than 0. Array should array should array is empty rather. So I'm just giving a descriptive message. You understand? Yeah. So what do we want to do? So now we are done with this. So let's put each modifier where they're supposed to be. So the first one is only owner. So only owner should be able to what? Add the students. Only the owner can be able to do that. And we need to make sure the owner's address is what? Valid. Valid address. And we need to make sure the array is not less than 0 valid array. You get? So this is happy student very crucial. Then the updating student too. Now for it to update students, it means that there's already a value. So let us just do the same thing to make sure. Then yeah, you can get all students. So probably in school, students can just say, okay, he wants to see just like the way they are putting results on the school board, you get, where everybody can see it. So everybody can see the user. You can just come here and say, so get all students. We just need to do valid array, and we need to do what? Position. So we need to make sure the array is valid. We need to make sure the array is valid. So likewise, this we need to make sure the array is what's valid. Then any address can be able to see their students. So I don't want to put this as only owner because I want the student themselves to check. Probably there's a result. It's like you check it, you can see other people's results and stuff. So let's compile. So before we even continue, let's continue from our any question before I proceed. That's any question.
Okay, sir.
So you
I have a question, please. So, like to enhance the security of the register we initially made from the contract of the register to register the student we made. So now adding the constructor and the modifier now is one step in making this contract more secure. Is that what we are doing?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're trying to make it more secure, following the practices of what is here.
Okay.
Yeah, so remember, modifier just makes our this thing secure. So this modifier is telling us that it has to be the owner that is able to add and update the student. But anybody can be able to get all students. So that's what they're telling us. So anybody can be able to get all students, but it has to be the owner that can be able to add and update the students. You get. So we also have integer overflow / underflow protection. While Solidity 0.8.0 has automatic overflow checking, it's essential to understand the risks when working with earlier versions. So when you are working with earlier versions, you have to check for overflows and underflow. So number one is we'll use Solidity, which has inbuilt. So it is recommended to use Solidity, the version of Solidity 0.8.0, because it has an inbuilt overflow checks. So which one are we going to use? We're using what? We are using 0.8.0 to 0.9.0, which means we are in safe hands. So they are checking the overflow for us. Now we don't need to do that. But you can still do that if you want, but it's not actually recommended. So use safe match library for older versions. Let's say you are using an older version. You can use a safe match library. That time before this checks require things better than additional overflow stuff. Yeah, so For now, if you as long as you're using a version 0.8.0, it's good because you are using it has an inbuilt checks that's checking overflow and underflow for us. So we have limit call. So we have what limit call, delegate call, and tx.origin usage. So dangerous use case of tx.origin. So tx.origin, yeah. Then we have message or sender. Then we have address at call. Then we have require. So now, like I said, be cautious when using call. It's not the first time I'm telling you guys. Always have checks before executing it. Always have checks. Then require message to sender is the owner, which is very safe. So nobody should do tx.origin. Tx.origin is actually checking in a global variable in Solidity. It returns the original address that initiated the transaction. So what they're trying to say is, what tx.origin does is it returns it checks if this is actually the owner that initialized this transaction. So instead of this, it is not actually recommended to use this. This is the better and safer way. So you use message or sender. I think this is way safer. Then be cautious with .core. Always add checks for success. Always add checks. This particular check. Always add this. Then we have I'm not doing this because we can actually make our student registry payable. For it to be able to add students, you have to pay. Yeah, I can do that too. Yeah, we're going to add payable. So restrict access with modifiers. I think we've done this. We've done this particular one. User uses access control modifiers to limit who can execute functions. So remember, we have our only owner, which is msg.sender equal to owner. And you can use OpenZeppelin's ownable. So probably you don't want to write your own only owner. You can just do this. Import this from OpenZeppelin and just add their only owner here. Simple. Then you have to do this. Contract. This is more like using another contract inside your contract. That's why we have is ownable. So we are bringing in this ownable file inside this, and we are using the only owner function there. So if you have any question, please call my attention. So we also have use. Yeah.
Okay. In one of the best practices, you said we should not use like the version of Pragma with like we should use a specific one in production. Like
No, not
instead
like a
of
specific
writing
one.
that character 0.80 because they might bring breaking changes. That for
Yeah.
production we should it's preferable to use a specific version.
No, use the updated one, or
Okay.
or you use any version greater than 0.8.0. As long as it
Okay.
is greater, yeah, you can use it.
Okay, you should just majorly 0.8 upward, like
Zero.
using that character. Okay. So
Yeah.
it can handle the other minor version. Okay.
Yeah, so we have use view pure and constant correctly. So view and pure, do you guys know these are modifiers? These are like they are also modifiers. Why? Because view is a read only, pure is a no read and write. You don't read and you don't write. While constant is no change for this variable. So when we declare some constant, it means that we don't want to change this particular variable. So this is an example. We have to get balance. So we turn it to public, then we're returning this. I want to try this. You can actually get the balance of a user. Do you guys know that? Let me We can get the balance of a current of an address using what? Address this dot balance. So let me compare. So let me delete. So I've compared successfully. So it has deployed. So I just want to get the balance. So the balance is what? 0. You can see the reason why it's showing me 0 because this stuff doesn't have money inside this particular address. It doesn't have money, but we can transfer money to it. You can go to which then we can go to start utils and transfer it to it there, and you are going to see the money there. So let's proceed. So always was you make sure know when to use view pure and constant correctly. No, then number 8 is what? Set prudent visibility, public, private, and what? Internal. So never leave sensitive logic public unless required. So the reason why we are adding so much public here is because of this is just a class. We are trying to just do something real quick. So always know where to use all this again. So we use public. Public can be called by anyone unless you add checks. While private only accessible within the contract. Internal, this plus derived contract. External, only external accounts / contracts can call this function. So visibility matters. Know where to use visibility, public, private, and internal. There are other resources on YouTube that you can watch to know them better. Make sure you know where to use public, private, and internal. Always know that. So don't store secrets on chain. Don't store what? Secrets on chain. So we have now, I gave an example. We have a string and we set it to what? Private. And it's a password. So let's say this is a super secret. This private can be hacked. Do you know that? Even if it is marked private, anyone can still call this via what? This is more like the cheat code when using private. You want to hack a person's password that a private key visibility. Then you can also replicate of get storage at then the contract address, then the slot index. It will get you this secret. So it is better to use off-chain verification or ZK snacks for private data. So let's proceed. But instead of anything, it is better to use private. At least it's more safer. Then we have 10 circuit breaker pattern, which is the pause functionality. So what this does is that, let's say there's a bug in your code. Yeah, let's say you built a website or a DApp and you didn't expect as much users as possible. So let's say you expected 20 users and you saw like 1,000 users, and that is not what you expected. So and your app crashes. So what you can do to stop everything is what? Using this pause functionality. This one, it can just pause the contract for you, pause it. Again, so that no withdrawals can be made, no transfer can be made, or something like that. That is what it's actually used for. Used for doing what? Emergencies or bugs. It will just pause what? Everything. Are you guys with me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So let's proceed.
So for that,
So we have,
sorry,
okay,
for
what are you talking?
that, do not store secret on chain. Can we use internal in that instance for that type of variable?
Yeah, please come again. What did you say?
Yeah, for that secret, like do not store secrets, like secret keys on chain. Can we use
Yeah.
internal visibility for such variable?
So instead of using internal, yeah, it's better you use what? Private. Yeah. Private is more like the safest. The safest. Yeah. But private is can also be hard, but at least it is less more um open for vulnerabilities. Or you can use off-chain verification methods. There are off-chain verification methods. I've forgotten their names. Yeah, you can use the case start from that. I will go into details with this probably on our next class, which is on Thursday. Yeah.
So sorry, sir. Mine is on this post functionality. Let's say I've deployed a contract and I've put it, let's say, or maybe on mainnet, and just like you said, when they deploy a contract, it has already gone and you've integrated it in your app. So how will you then redeploy again and have a new contract and still put it back again? That's just my concern.
Yeah. There's something called upgradable contract. So when you implement it, you just have to add you just have to deploy again. Then you change the contract address. It is called upgradable contract. What the contract does is that instead of you copying the whole API, you just copy the contract address, so you then place it with the one in your front end. Then your post functionality, once you change the contract address, just the contract address, then the post functionality is supposed to take effect. Hello? Did you understand what I said? Hello, I'm just did you understand?
So I can hear you. I'm on call.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are good too.
So
I can hear you. Okay.
so let's go to what? Time lock critical functions. So time lock critical functions prevent admins from immediately executing sensitive actions, e.g., upgrade, fund, and withdraw. So this kind of function just simply means that okay, let's say you initialized a contract and you don't want to change it until after 2 days, or you don't want to withdraw the money until after 2 days. So you are going to set like a block timer that says, okay, I don't want to withdraw this money until this timer gets to 2 days. So that timer will be locked until that time you set it to is being executed. That is what this simply means. You just prevent you from taking critical actions. You get probably something you might regret later or something. So yeah, that's what time lock critical function does. Then we have oracle manipulation
Sorry,
protection.
sir. Sorry. I have
Yeah.
about this time lock. Because of the delay, is it that when you deploy and you want to make changes, because of the time you've set, you can go back and make your adjustment before the transaction is being completed? Or what is the use in
Yeah,
details?
come again. Come again.
I said, you said the time lock gives you an opportunity to delay like the contract in case of critical maybe errors. So now can you actually, if you now notice that there is an
No,
error in your contract, This time lock, will it give you the opportunity to readdress your issues, or what is the main function there?
So the main function of time lock, like I said, is prevent admins from immediately executing sensitive actions. So let's say you have a funding agent or a an agent that borrows people money, or I don't know the perfect example to use, but for example, let's say there's a money you want to withdraw, and probably if you withdraw that money, you know that you might regret it. So you are going to set like a timer that will lock the money, and you won't be able to withdraw that money until that time is reached. You get it? Until that time reaches. So now the time the money will be locked. Probably you might go and think that okay, thank God I locked this stuff. If not, I would have regretted why I withdraw it. That kind of stuff. Did you get what I said?
Sorry, sir. Just to add to Jethro's question, Jethro, in a situation maybe you have a team and you want to be paying them maybe every month. So is every month they can have access to the money because their wallet is admin to the contract. So you can just restrict them. So dates. That's the only time they can withdraw their money. So that's how I understood it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a perfect explanation. That's a perfect example. Yeah.
Okay, so it does not even give, yes, opportunity for upgrade. I understand. Thank you.
Yeah. Even the admin themselves, them and they can never change it. You get until it reaches that particular time.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Yeah. So we have oracle manipulation protection. So when relying on off-chain data, e.g. price fields, always use chain link, add bound or weight limit. Now what they mean is, let's say you are using external data, or you're using an API from an external source. So there's something called chain link. They use chain link. You guys haven't gotten there, but yeah, the add bound or weight limit. Add bound or weight limit. Then always add a required statement that checks for the price is less than and the price is the main price. Like just make sure you add a valid check for prices to make sure that in case prices reduces, you will not be in loss or something like that. But this is not actually that important. Yeah. Let's move on. So 13 is what? Gas optimization with security in mind. So when they talk about gas optimization, optimize contracts for gas efficiency without compromising security. So what are the best practices? So the first one is what? Pack, pack variables to save storage slots. Now, pack variables to save storage slots. Use call data for function parameters. Once you are using a function that just reads data, you can just use function parameters. Then cage storage variables in what? Memory. Memory is a read and write storage parameter. Do you guys know that? So then also be mindful of loops. Yeah, loops. Be mindful of what? Loops. Because there are some loops that you don't know will be executing behind the scenes, which will be eating up, which will make gas very high. So be mindful of what loops. Always be mindful of that. Then the last but not the least is what comprehensive testing and auditing. Always before you, I believe I talked this, I said this in our smart contract section last month. I said this that comprehensive testing and auditing, that if you want your smart contract to be very safe, you do what? Write aesthetic unit test, perform integration testing, conduct formal verification, get personal audit. Now, after you have the test, now you are the one to write it by yourself, or someone can write it for you. But the auditing, you give it to experienced people. They will audit your contract for you. If they have vulnerabilities, they will tell you that. So then we have a class exercise, which is to do the student registry. But I've already done that, so there's no need to actually do it again. No need to do it again. And okay, we can even add exist. We are not even done with our checks. Do you guys know? So we need to check if the user exists before registering students. So I believe you guys know auditing and testing. So these are some of the best smart contracts practices you need to know. Any questions on this before we continue? Any question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, sir, let's say maybe for instance now you are building a product management system or something like that, but it's a private contract you want to build. But based on this auditing, can you still free your code whereby someone cannot still steal your maybe your business idea or logic? How will you bypass such things? Or someone not adding a malicious code to it when auditing for you?
No. That is why it is being called auditing. Nobody gives a fuck about your code. The auditor just wants to get their money, check your code, check your vulnerabilities, you pay them, and they move on. Even if they steal your idea, I mean, the idea you are building, you probably got it from somewhere else. Am I lying? So I believe everything you want to do, someone has already done it. So idea doesn't mean, even if I steal your idea, it doesn't mean anything. So that shouldn't be your worry. What should be your worry is auditing your code and making sure it's not versatile and it's not eligible for attacks.
Even if they steal your idea, they cannot steal execution.
Yeah. So let's go back to our mimics. So someone should resend the link for someone should resend the attendance. So then we have now.
So if it's possible, can we get this the link to this this contract we are writing now, so that we can go through it later, and then the material, the hack MD file, if we can still get the link, would actually appreciate, because most times it can get yeah, before it gets to the sub mentor and gets to us is actually to be honest.
Right, I sent it. So now we need to check something here. Before a user can be able to add a student, we need to check if users dot push like access to this. Want to do a check. Okay. So we need to check, we need to do a require statement here that checks if the user is already registered. Require statement. So we need to check that if the user, or should I just use what is registered? Well, let me just get it from the user info. What is spelling? This is registered. So now, as you train the error is not found or visible after agreement. As you train the error, you know what? Let me. Oops, my battery is low.
So shouldn't be this is registered. Should be the argument that is being passed in that we are checking for. Since we are adding a new
I
user,
think so.
instead of writing user info, I was thinking we use the is registered alone, since we are passing the value inside the function.
Yeah, you can just use registered directly. Yeah. So you can just come here and start doing this. If underscore is registered, okay, is let me just copy this. Is registered is equal to true, which means that if the person has is registered and the boolean is equal to true, which means that the person is already there. You don't need to add him again. So if the register is equal to true, user is not registered. If it is not equal to true, sorry. If it is not equal to true, does want to check if it is not equal. Okay. So if user is not equal, because if user is equal to true, it means that the user is already there. Then it's not equal, it means that user is not registered. So if user is not equal to true, which means that it's false. So we need to add it and we need to set it to true. Yeah, it's correct. This should be user is registered. Yeah, it's correct. Then we need to add another check here. Once we don't add require, yeah, the condition should be. So let's check if so the require now, what do we want to check? So what should we check this require for this object user? So we want to add so we want to make sure the user is already registered here now. So if okay, let's add underscore register. I'm just copying this. Or I can just do this. If user, then underscore ID dot is registered and it's equal to true, because we want to check if it's equal to true now. So if the person has already registered, you can be able to update it. But if the person is not registered, you can't update it. So that is what we're actually doing here. Are you guys understanding what I'm doing?
So why are we checking if he's registered only by the ID? Or am I not understanding the code now?
This users now, yeah. Remember this ID now, it can be the ID now is the ID of the user. So each user has their unique ID. So this ID is more like I can have 5 users, and the first one will be what 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's say I want to check the user that has the ID of 0. So I'll just pass in 0 here in my this thing. I'll pass in 0 here. You get. Then I'll check if that user has a registered, is registered, and if it is equal to true, this particular function will execute. Else, it means that user is what not registered. Do you get what I said?
Yes, I understand now. That's good.
So now let's test it, get all users. We don't need to add checks here. So let's test our function. So now our student registry now is very secure. So let's redeploy. So when we scroll up, want to get all students. Now we don't have anything. Now you can see this is an array. We don't have any user for now. So let us add 2 users. The first one should be what? Martin. The first one should be Martin. And the second one should be age. And the third one should be the class SS2. And the student ID, let's say ME. Student ID is what? Let's say 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Then now, if we put, you can see, if we put false here, sorry, if we put true, how I do? It's equal to true. So if we put false, it's not going to show an error. Sorry, if we put true, is it true or false? I'm coming. If it's registered is equal to true, so now this will be what? Is it true? Let me see. Yeah, this should be true. Or is it false? Aha, perfect. Perfect. Yeah, so this should be false. Why? Because now we are saying is user already registered and the user is putting true. Since we are adding a new user, it means that the user hasn't been registered already. So this has to be false. That's why it's giving us this particular error we have here. User is registered. You get? But if we put false, am I turning this thing? If you put false, it's going to work now. You get? Or am I, wait, if is registered equal to false, do this, execute this, which means user is, okay, then if user is equal to true, it's now kind of confusing. I'm coming. User has to be equal to false now, yeah, I'm coming. If so that already registered, Then correct. Correct. Yeah, so this is correct. So this has to be false. Then for us to be able to update it, Martin King, the ID should be 0. Then the age should be 23. Then the class should be WWE. When you click on transact, we show you what now user is what not registered because we are checking for this now. You get. So if you see what's is happening here, we are checking. Require if there's no if there's no student that exists, print it as what should execute this function. Then yep, which means that go to false. If it's registered, correct, it's false. Whatever. It's false. Then hope you guys are still with me. Oh, you guys lost. Hope you guys are with me.
Yeah, we
Almost
are
there.
with you, sir. We are with you. We are with you.
Yeah, so
Obi don't turn man today.
Obi don't talk now.
Obi don't see clear today.
So that class SS2 student ID 122 is registered. True. So user is what registered. So this is supposed to show false, which means user haven't what to be registered. So this is correct. Then this update user. Then let's get all students. You can see we have my value here. If you want to get, let me add another user. Let me add something called Anthony. So Anthony is what? Let's say 16 is a what? SS1 is ID number 23. So and it's false. So it's going to add this for us. So when we do get all students, it's going to update to what? Anthony. Then we can get a specific student. Let's get just Anthony for here. So you can see Anthony is just showing just Anthony. Then we can update user. Then we can update user. Then we want to change it to K. Then the ID should be 1, age should be 17, the class should be SS3. Now this will fail. I expect this to fail because of these checks now. I'll get it here. Now you can see transaction will be divided to initial state because user is not what registered. Now it's because of the checks I'm doing now, it's false. If.id is true now. So let's transact. So let me delete this and deploy again. So I want to make sure this is working before I leave it. Let me just put anything there. 12, 1, 2, 4. So I haven't registered before. So I'm gonna click on transact. Then now let's update. Let's get all students. It's going to show there. So let's update it to house ID 12. So ID should be 0. A should be as in 4. That should be SS3. So this will still show user not what registered. So which means is equal to false because now we're expecting it to be equal to false. Because yeah. But now before this, so I think we need to add is registered here. Go who is registered. So Bo is registered. So I think we should do this to work. Or no need to do that, no need. And also it's equal to false. So when we do this again, so let me redeploy. So make sure you add checks for everything. Let me just add anything here. 1, 2, SSE, 1, 2, 2, false. So we want to update user. Let's get our user first. We'll get you there. Then we have nothing, have change, have ID. Let's get the ID of 0, then name. A should be 16, the class should be SS2. Let's change this to 120. So let's translate. This will work now. Yep. So you can see that when we get our students, it's going to update. And you can see. So yeah, this is it about smart contract best practices. You guys have any question before I end the class?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry, although mine is not really a question because though I followed along it to the end, but if you can still give us this code, maybe publish it to GitHub, let's get it there, or you can send the code to some of us that could not code along. Some of us are using phone, so they can go through it maybe in their PC when they're charged or something like that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to deploy it to my GitHub. So someone should just like chat me up. I don't know. Someone should just chat me up later to remind me so I'll push it. Because I have a
All right,
meeting.
I will chat you. Yeah.
All right, all right. So I'll put the code and everything. So I believe you guys understood uh everything we've done so far. So in next class we're going to talk about what is it called? ERC 20, ERC 1115. So then ERC 721 and all of that. So let's talk about that. Yeah, so see you guys next class. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, I love you.
Yeah, thank you.